This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty fundamental. It's about how we, as humans, understanding itself.
Exactly. We're looking at that boundary, right?
Yeah.
Between what we know and everything else. The vast unknown.
And our mission today is kind of cool. We're taking two very different viewpoints on this.
Yeah, one from 19th century German philosophy, Hegel, specifically, and the other from what modern science seems to be telling us, and they really clash.
It's a real tension. Do we get closer to some ultimate truth with every discovery? Or does finding something new just show us how much more we don't know, maybe even exponentially more?
That's the core question. Are we converging on an answer, or is the mystery just getting bigger and bigger, faster and faster? Let's
dive into that. The implications are pretty profound, metaphysically speaking. Okay, so let's start with the first perspective. This comes from thinking about Hegel's absolute spirit. There's a kind of, a powerful optimism there, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's built on this deep belief in reason. Hegel fundamentally thought that reality itself, the universe, history, it's all structured rationally.
It's not just random chaos out there.
Not at all. For Hegel, it's a logical process unfolding. And crucially, he believed our human reason is capable of grasping it, eventually, fully.
So the universe is like a puzzle, but one we actually have the tools to solve.
Precisely. And that ultimate solution, that complete understanding where reason sees reality perfectly clearly, that's the absolute spirit.
Right, but Hegel wasn't saying we'd figure it all out next Tuesday, was he? The sources make that clear.
No, definitely a long-term project. And that's where this great analogy comes in, the one mentioned in the source material. Human reason might not ever fully reach the recognition of God, which here means that total unified understanding.
The absolute spirit.
Right. But it constantly approaches it like an asymptote.
Ah, the asymptote. Okay, I remember that from math class. It's a line that a curve gets closer and closer to.
Infinitely closer.
But never actually touches or crosses.
Exactly. And that image tells us two really important things about this Hegelian view. First, there is a target, a definite endpoint. Truth is finite and graspable, even if infinitely far in practice.
Okay, so there's a destination on the map.
Yes. And second, every step we take, every discovery we make, actually gets us closer. If you reduce the distance to that asymptote, you've made real, measurable progress.
So knowledge isn't just random facts, it's cumulative. It builds towards something.
Yes, it systematically shrinks the gap. So, research, philosophy, science, it all has this inherent value because it's moving us along that path. It guarantees progress in a way.
Towards convergence.
It's a very ordered view of discovery, a slow, maybe, but steady march towards enlightenment.
And you can see why that would give people immense confidence. It implies that all the different fields of human inquiry are ultimately heading towards the same unified, coherent truth. The universe is just sort of waiting for us to piece it all together.
But doesn't that feel, a bit presumptive, assuming the universe must fit into the neat boxes of human logic? Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? Hegel would say our logic works because it reflects the fundamental rationality of the universe itself.
But what if it doesn't? What if reality operates on principles we haven't even conceived of?
And that's exactly the kind of question that the modern scientific observation throws into sharp relief. It suggests maybe the map isn't just slightly wrong. Maybe the territory itself keeps changing or expanding as we explore it.
Okay, so let's make that pivot. Hold on to that image of the steady, converging asymptote.
Right.
And contrast it with this observation from modern science. It really flips the script, geometry-wise.
It does. We shift from the philosopher's study to the lab bench, essentially. And the observation, as the sources put it, is stark. As humans make new discoveries, the amount of stuff they realize they don't know seems to increase geometrically or exponentially.
Wow. So, okay, instead of closing the gap, making a discovery actually widens it or opens up multiple new gaps.
That's the feeling, yeah.
Yeah.
You solve one problem and suddenly you see 10 more problems you didn't even know were problems before.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about, say, particle physics. Finding the Higgs boson was huge. Decades of work, right?
Right. A massive discovery. The end of the standard model, almost.
Well, yes and no. Because finding it didn't just tie things up. It immediately threw open huge new questions. What about dark matter? Dark energy? Why is the Higgs mass what it is? What about vacuum stability? It's like that one answer spawned countless new, deeper questions.
Okay, I see. Or like mapping the human genome. That felt like a final answer. Here's the code.
Exactly. But what happened? It instantly gave birth to whole new fields. Epigenetics, how the code is controlled, proteomics, what the code actually builds, systems biology, how all those parts interact. Suddenly the complexity just exploded. We answered what's the sequence and generated 1,000 new hows and whys.
So the feeling the sources mention, it's less, aha, we're closer, and more, oh wow, look how much more there is.
Precisely. It's that sense that understanding one thing doesn't simplify the picture. It reveals a deeper, more complex layer underneath. It's like the Hydra myth you mentioned, cut off one head to grow back.
The knowledge gain seems divergent, not convergent. You double what you know.
And you don't just double the questions.
Yeah.
Maybe you square them or cube them because you realize things are connected in ways you never imagined.
So that ultimate truth, that Hegelian destination, in this view, it seems to be running away from us faster than we can chase it.
Yeah, it feels like the finish line is actively receding, which is a profoundly different experience of discovery than Hegel envisioned. He thought truth was static, waiting for us.
Whereas this observation suggests the landscape of ignorance itself is dynamic, maybe infinite, and every step forward just reveals more of its vastness.
So you end up with these two starkly opposing models, the steady asymptotic climb versus this almost dizzying geometric explosion of the unknown.
Right, and this contrast isn't just about how scientists feel day to day. It leads to a really deep question, the one the sources pinpoint.
Exactly. It's the core metaphysical challenge here. If this observation from natural science holds true, that when something is understood, many more unknown things emerge, then what kind of metaphysics, what kind of fundamental understanding of reality can be derived from that?
Okay, so we're moving beyond just how we learn to what learning tells us about the universe itself.
Precisely. Does this geometric growth of unknowns mean reality isn't just complicated, but maybe infinitely complex? Is the universe structured in such a way that every layer we peel back just reveals an even bigger layer underneath, forever?
Because if that's true, then the whole Hegelian project of convergence was fundamentally impossible, isn't it?
It would seem so. If Hegel assumed a, let's say, finite box of truths we're slowly filling.
Right.
This modern observation suggests reality isn't a box at all. It's something that expands outwards the more we probe it. We might be limited not just by our effort, but by the very nature of existence.
That completely changes how we define progress, then.
It has to. If the gap between known and unknown actually widens with discovery, then success isn't getting closer to an endpoint. Success is. Well, maybe it's just getting better at mapping the expanding boundaries of our own ignorance.
Our greatest achievements become, in a way, measures of how much more we've realized we don't know.
It's a humbling perspective, isn't it?
It is. But could it be? I mean, playing devil's advocate here, could this just be a phase? Maybe we're still figuring out the really basic stuff like quantum mechanics or cosmology. Once we crack those, perhaps things will start to converge again.
That's possible, of course. It's hard to prove a negative. But the evidence so far, especially from those foundational shifts like quantum mechanics, they seem to unleash the biggest floods of new mysteries. It doesn't feel like we're just clearing up some fog before reaching the shore. It feels more like discovering the ocean is vastly deeper and stranger than we ever imagined, and maybe bottomless.
So it's the difference between ignorance being a temporary problem to be solved versus ignorance being a fundamental, perhaps permanent feature of our relationship with reality.
Exactly. And that shift is huge, metaphysically.
Because if convergence is off the table, what's the point? Why keep searching?
Well, maybe the point shifts. If the journey never ends, if the unknown is infinite, then maybe the value is the journey itself. Curiosity becomes the driving force, not the expectation of arrival.
So the goal isn't enlightenment in the sense of knowing everything. Maybe it's just becoming more skilled explorers of an infinite territory.
Right. You start to see the unknown not as a failure or a deficit, but maybe as the very thing that makes the universe interesting. It's the source of endless discovery.
So you, the listener, are kind of left with this choice, aren't you? Is this expanding ignorance a frustrating limit, proof we can never truly win? Or is it actually wonderful, a guarantee that there will always be more to explore, more to be amazed by?
Yeah. Does it mean the universe is ultimately richer and more dynamic than any finite system of reason, like Hegel's, could ever fully capture? Maybe the unknown isn't an enemy, it's just the nature of things. #outro.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've contrasted these two really powerful ideas about knowledge. There's Hegel's view that asymptotic climb, getting ever closer to a final unified truth.
Yeah, that steady, optimistic convergence.
And then there's this observation from modern science that Every discovery seems to unlock a cascade of new questions, multiplying the unknown, maybe exponentially.
Pushing that finish line further and further away, perhaps infinitely.
It leaves us with a pretty mind-bending thought building on that metaphysical question we discussed.
Right. If the modern observation holds, if our primary experience of progress is discovering just how much more we don't know at an ever-increasing rate, well, here's something to chew on. Does that mean our ultimate destiny as thinking beings isn't enlightenment, isn't arriving at Hegel's absolute spirit, but instead, perhaps it's to become eternally, profoundly, maybe even joyfully well-informed about the truly infinite scale of our own ignorance?
Infinite awareness of infinite ignorance. Wow, okay, you can definitely chew on that. That brings us to the end of our sources for this deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for tuning in to the deep dive.
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.